Hey, do you guys remember when I talked about ITV Digital? For those who don't remember, let me sum it up for you. The ill-fated British TV company ITV Digital ran some advertisements about a lovable couch potato and a sarcastic monkey sidekick. Each advertisement would have them just kinda derp around and talk about random stuff, and it all relates to ITV Digital somehow. Despite the ads being extremely popular, ITV Digital itself was not. So despite the advertisements becoming extremely well-loved, ITV Digital closed up shop. So it's safe to say that the campaign didn't really have the desired effect. But there are more stories out there of advertisement campaigns that didn't have the desired effects, and this is one of them. We're going way back into the internet history vaults for this one, folks. This is the story of an ad campaign, but not just any ad campaign, an ad campaign with a very interesting history, but disastrous results. Let me tell you all about it. This is George and Alan, a story of volcanicity. Our story begins in the mid-2000s. The water company, Volvic, who's famous for having volcanic spring water in every single bottle, really wanted to shake things up. They needed a new advertising push, and they needed it quickly. They needed something to boost their water sales and to get themselves into the minds of any consumer out there. Rather than come up with a catchy jingle or a snappy slogan, they decided to go the extra mile. Or rather, kilometer. It all started with these two fellows, Lee Tan and Jonathan Thake. They came up with an idea for an ad campaign. It would revolve around a talking volcano named George and a Tyrannosaurus Rex named Tyrannosaurus Alan, and the two would discuss the many wonderful attributes of Volvic. You can see here in early tech demos that they kinda had the style they wanted to go for here. Puppets, puppets, puppets. But unlike ITV Digital, they decided to go it alone rather than hire the Jim Henson Workshop for help.
Hey, Alan, do you want some of my Volvic water? It's full of volcanicity.
What's volcanicity?
Soon after this demo was showed off, it was greenlit and production began. The George puppet was enormous, and it actually required 3 different puppeteers to control the whole thing, 2 of which mostly focused on the mouth. And given the fact that George was the one who did the most talking in these ads, they would definitely be getting a lot of exercise.
My birds! They like a fruit flavor when they're hydrating. Look! Birds!
Alan actually had 2 different puppets. Each one had a big blue screen glove sticking out of his neck. That must have been painful. In actuality, this was for the different shots he'd be in. The puppet that had the glove on the back of the neck would be used for the front shots. Meanwhile, the puppet with the glove on the front of the neck would be used for the rear shots. That way, in post, no arm would be showing up and cutting off the scenery. While the background and sky were created via blue screen, the actual setting was real. It was hand-constructed and everything. Judging by the stunning production value of this, and the fact that everyone on board seemed very excited about the prospects of this campaign, you can definitely tell that Volvic had a lot riding on this. This had to be a success. They needed to get something out of it. And not just something big. After all, if they were going to spend this amount of money and throw in this amount of attention to this ad campaign, it had to be huge. Anything else would be considered a waste of time. But how did it go? Well, let's look at the advertisements themselves first. The first one is, technically speaking, the standard one. It focuses on regular traditional Volvic and talking about how it's filled with volcanicity, which is a word that, while not necessarily real, they would repeat often throughout these commercials.
Rah! What you doing, Mr. Volcano?
Hello, Tyrannosaurus Alan. I'm filling my water with volcanicity.
Oh?
Rain filters down through my handsome volcano rocks to create a wild mineral water that grabs life by the conkers and hydrates you till you shout, "Come on, world, I'll have you for breakfast!"
The second one was about Volvic with flavor, specifically lemon. This is where we would actually get George's name for the very first time, as it wasn't spoken in the first one.
George, you still filling your water with volcanicity?
And making it tasty for the ladies.
George, so suave.
Well, my birds do like a twist with their water.
Your birds? You can't say that.
My birds! They like a fruit flavor when they're hydrating. Look! Birds!
The third commercial is easily the most famous. It advertises the now discontinued sports drink, Volvic Revive. Volvic Revive is exactly what it sounds like. As George would say,
It's got ginseng and guarana and will help keep you alive!
this one's probably the darkest of the ads. And I say this because it's about Tyrannosaurus Alan plotting genocide. I wish I was kidding. The whole thing is about him trying to wipe out the entire saber-toothed tiger race. I'd be more outraged if it wasn't so funny.
Busy day, Alan?
Yes, I'm planning to snuff out all the saber-toothed tigers, and the plotting involved is astronomical. I'm up to my ears in graphs, charts, and flow diagrams, and I've only got a brain the size of a pea.
The fourth one was easily the shortest. It was basically just George reiterating how wonderful Volvic Revive is, while we see Tyrannosaurus Alan going hunting.
Stimulating new Volvic Revive will help keep Alan alert for all his busy carnivorous plotting. Right, Alan?
And the fifth one doesn't exist. That's it, just 4 commercials that all came around the same time. Yep, this giant effort, this massive production, only had 4 commercials, and then it faded away. I bet you're wondering what happened.
YouTube poop. Where there's smoke, they pinch back.
Around the time that Volvic launched this ad campaign, YouTube Poop was in its early days, and it was looking for news sources. And wouldn't you know it, someone stumbled across George and Alan. So they decided to take these very bizarre Volvic ads and then turn them into anything they want. They turned them into stories of George and Alan being psychotic, George and Alan trying to decide what's better, water or Gatorade, or George messing up his lines. While this never grew to the height of, say, SpongeBob or the CDI cutscenes, it definitely made its mark, and a lot of George and Alan YTPs were created. In fact, they're still being created. Looking at YouTube right now, I can see some that were posted within this year. While they're only sparsely around in these days, back then, they were everywhere. And as expected, this is not really the kind of image that Volvic wanted. Don't forget, this is in the early days when companies didn't really understand the internet very well. So this could have easily been seen as a form of mockery. In fact, the urban legend is that the Volvic ad campaign with George and Alan actually stopped because of the YTPs. Volvic got cold feet and misinterpreted the YTPs as malicious, so they stopped them entirely. This is actually not the case. This could have very well been a reason, but it wasn't the sole driving factor for the discontinuation. No. Remember what I said earlier about this needing to have an enormous impact or else it would have been seen as a waste? Well, it didn't. This did nothing to help the sales of Volvic. They just stagnated, didn't go up, didn't go down, just didn't affect anything. It's not that it even left a bad impression, it just left no impression. Which in my eyes is kind of weird considering how bizarre these ads are. People just didn't really resonate with the characters, so they had no choice but to drop them. Maybe it's because the jokes were so bombastic and out of the norm. Maybe it's because every single line was loudly shouted. Or maybe it's because the puppetry was just seen as somewhat uncanny or something. Understanding why George and Alan didn't take off will always just be conjecture, really. No official statement was released aside from the fact that it just stagnated. Just think about it. All of these puppets, all of this writing, all of these actors just went to waste. Clearly they had a lot of ambition and a very clear vision of what they wanted and what they wanted to get out of it. Unfortunately, by some unknown circumstances, they could just never get it. So they had to quickly terminate the ad campaign and be done, finding something else to get Volvic into the minds of the people. But George and Alan still live on. And not just in the memes and YTPs. There's still archives of all of their old stuff, the commercials and the website. Looking into the website, there was actually some really big effort going into it. You could play games with Tyrannosaurus Alan or get berated by George. This bit is my personal favorite.
What the are you doing, you lazy muppet? You've been sitting on your fat for over 4 hours. You're such a waste of space. Get off your lousy and drink some new Volvic Revive. It's got ginseng and guarana and will help keep you alert. That means it could even motivate donuts like you. Oh, and while you're at it, clean your teeth.
That was real. That was actually on their website. It seems like these days, the internet crowd has a lot of respect for these two. Probably because their writing did take more risks for an advertisement, but also for the set design and how admittedly charming the characters come off, even if they are loud and shouty. However, It's clear that Volvic wants a new image. There's no bother trying to get them to bring him back, 'cause they never will. George and Alan are just a thing of the past. An unfortunate tragedy of advertisements. They really tried. They wanted to be the new Monkey, or M&M's spokes candies. But it just couldn't be. 'Twas not to be, George and Alan. 'Twas not to be. So that is the story of Tyrannosaurus Alan and George the Volcano. What'd you guys think of these commercials? What'd you guys think of the story? Comment below and let me know, because I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.